Will you pray for me? God, may the words of my lips and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, because you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. They got to work hard. They were church ladies, and they knew what to do. They knew how to work hard and successfully, so they started to bake. And they sold a lot of baked goods. This is a true story. A friend of mine told it to me about her home church in the middle part of the country. I won't say where. They baked a lot of baked goods, and they sold a lot. They had the biggest rummage sale the town had ever seen. They sold lemonade at the town festival along with the most delicious strawberry shortcake you can imagine. They took offering after offering. They worked hard, and they raised thousands of dollars. See, these church ladies were part of a church that had a partnership with a group of churches in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And they had gotten to know the ladies down there very well. They had visited back and forth. They had become close friends. They loved each other a lot. And so these American church ladies, they knew how much poverty there was in Haiti. They had seen it. They had smelled it. They had tasted it. They had touched it. And they were in love with women who lived with it every day. They knew how poor it was and how hard it was there. And then that earthquake hit. And all of Port-au-Prince slid off the hillsides. And all their friends were living in tents and had nothing. So they went to work hard, and they raised a lot of money. And they were thoughtful women. They were well-educated women. They knew better than to just show up and say, here you go, ladies, we bought you this. We know that this thing is what you need. They didn't do it that way. They got in touch with their friends. It took a long time, but they got in touch with them, and they said, tell us what you need. We love you so much, and we didn't know what to do, so we raised all this money. Tell us what you need. Anything. Food or water. Education, do you need medicine? We will get you anything. And the women in Haiti, they said, we know just what we can do with that money. We want you to buy us flowers. We want you to send us to classes so we can learn how to do flower arranging for the altars in our church. And the American church lady said, we'll do anything for you but that. See, these women knew their Bible. They knew that passage from Isaiah and lots like it. God is a God who makes a river in the desert. When people are thirsty, when they're dying of thirst, God makes water to spring forth. When they're starving to death, God makes food to appear in the hands of the people around them. When they're naked, God commands the church to take the coats off our own backs and give them away. God is all about basic needs, they said, and so they thought. But they forgot about this part of the passage, the part where God says, I am doing a new thing and it is springing forth. Do you not perceive this new thing I am doing? And my question is, what if the new thing springing forth was not water in the desert, but perfume? Remember that story when Lazarus died? Jesus' dear friend Lazarus, he died, and Jesus went to him and he brought him back to life. And Lazarus had two sisters, Mary and Martha. And in the days before Jesus' death, he knew what road he was on. He knew where he was going. He knew how it was going to end. And he needed just a little bit of comfort in those days. So he went to the house of his friends Mary and Martha and Lazarus. And he said, will you feed me dinner? And they did. And Mary remembered what he had done for her, what he had done for her brother. And so she went in the back room and she came out with a pound of perfume, a whole pound of ointment. And she said, here, Jesus, will you take this to the church and sell it in the auction and raise all that money so we can buy food for poor people, right? No. She took that pound of costly ointment, enough that if they sold it, it would have fed a laborer for a whole year. And she got down on her knees and she rubbed it into Jesus' feet. And she unbound her own hair and used it to rub that costly ointment into his feet. And Judas was there. And Judas asked what you would ask, what I would ask. He said, isn't this a waste? He said, why is she doing this? If we sold this, we could raise so much money. Do you know how many wells in Africa we could dig with the money from this nard if we were to sell it? And look what you did with it, Mary. And what did Jesus say? Jesus said, you will always have the poor with you, but when you feel love and devotion and beauty welling up in your heart, do not stop yourself. Do you know this book, Gilead, by Marilyn Robinson? She wrote it a few years ago, it won the Pulitzer. I commend it to you. In that book, she asks this question. She says, what if God does not judge our lives on a moral or an ethical basis? What if God judges our lives aesthetically? Not how pretty we are, not how good our hair is, not how big or shiny our house or our car is, not movie star aesthetically. What if God looked at the beauty of our actions? What if what God is sitting up in heaven longing for is to be delighted by the beauty of what we do? Those women from that church in the middle of the country, they meant well and they were well educated. They knew all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You've heard of this. Down at the bottom is all the basic things you have to survive, food and water. And then as you go up, the things get a little more sort of airy, a little less concrete. Then there's love and self-actualization. And up at the top, there's creativity and generosity and things like that. And the idea is that if the lower levels haven't been taken care of, you can't take care of the upper levels. And they were sure that that's what God was all about. Water and food and clothing, and of course, God is. But they were sure that if those things hadn't been taken care of in Haiti, then nothing else would matter. What they forgot is that God thinks we're supposed to take care of all of them all the time. What they forgot is that God is longing for us to live beautiful lives. And that's what those women in Haiti knew. They said, if you raised enough money with your bake sale to rebuild our entire city, then please spend it on that. If you raised enough money to replumb all of this city and get safe water to our children, then by all means do that. If you can build a whole hospital with the proceeds from your rummage sale, then by God, you better build it. But if you can't do those things, then we would like flowers. Amen.